Good evening and welcome. My name is Eben Bullock, Superintendent of Schools of the Sidney Central School District. Thank you very much for being in person, and thank you very much for joining us virtually tonight for our district Need to Know Reopening Plan. Just a couple of things. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please post them in the Q&A feature of the webinar. We will address the questions at the end. At this time, I'd like to share my screen, and we'll jump right into the presentation. And as I mentioned, now that we're socially distanced in the auditorium, if you would like to remove your face coverings, you can. As I mentioned, we're practicing just like what we would do in a classroom. So tonight's title of the presentation is Needs to Know. This is our third community forum. Today we had one at 9 o'clock this morning and 12 o'clock this afternoon, and again tonight at 6. This presentation will be recorded and posted on the district's website, hopefully starting tomorrow. Also, the question answering forum that we will put together will also be posted on our website, hopefully by Monday or Tuesday. So we started to develop the district reopening plan Need to Know with our strategic plan that was developed in 2017 and 18 school year with our school board and our community. And we really wanted to make sure that we stayed true to the guiding principles of what our strategic plan was really developed off from. And remember our mission, and I think it's important as we start this, is empowering all students to make meaningful and real contributions to their school community and beyond, with 4 main focus areas. And those four focus areas are teaching and learning, student support, engagement and communication, and effective and efficient systems. So during this process and developing this, our plan that was submitted to New York State Education Department and the Department of Health, and is also on our website, we stayed true to who the Sidney Central School District school community really is. Teaching and learning is our forefront. We know that. Student support is a critical piece to this. Engagement and communication, we've done our best at trying to give timely and accurate information throughout this entire process starting back in March. And we will continue to do that as we get closer to September. And then again, effective and efficient systems. So tonight's outline for our presentation will be New York State reopening guiding norms, the district's reopening team goal and subcommittees, technology and instructional platforms, transportation, health and safety, food service, cleaning and disinfecting protocols, elementary school schedule, junior, senior high school schedule. So to start with, we know we are in a pandemic that deals with a health crisis in our country. So first and foremost, the health and safety and well-being of children and adults in our school is paramount. That is what we've stuck with. That's what we will continue to stick with, is make sure that we can keep kids and staff as safe as possible. We also know this is an important piece, is educational equity, making sure that all students have access to a quality instruction that deals with connectivity within our community, with internet devices, with electronic devices, with access to education, access to a teacher. So educational equity is something that New York State has really set as a guiding norm, as well as the Sidney Central School District. We also recognize that one size does not fit all. Our plan will continue to evolve. We're having a conversation at Parent Forum on Thursday, August 13th, and it will continue to evolve as we get closer to school as well too. But we do realize that one size does not fit all. We also know that we've tried to be proactive and consistently working directly with parents and teachers and administrators and local community to develop this plan. It's an unbelievable feeling to have stakeholders from local businesses to local law enforcement to community members to parents to board members that are on our reopening team and our district team. So we can't thank the stakeholders enough for this. And we also know that we're going to succeed through this. We've been really believing in the initiative #WarriorPride all year long and really pushing that. And it's a collaborative, collective effort that has got us this far, and we will continue to do that. And we know that we're going to be successful. The governor stated on Friday, August 7th, that we can return in person. Schools can return in person. So having said that, we will continuously monitor that situation with what the state tells us and the Department of Health tells us, and we will continue to provide accurate, timely information and updates to parents as needed. So the district reopening team, the purpose of the team is to provide the district with thoughtful and inclusive input needed to open up our doors safely for all kids. There were 3 subgroups of our reopening team: the health and safety team, the plant operations team, and the continuity of learning team that deals with teaching and learning. Again, those committees were made up of a multitude of stakeholders within the community, from parents to local agencies, to health and safety coordinators at our local BOCES, administrators, Board of Education members, teachers, aides, clerical, tons of support staff. So we can't thank the stakeholders enough that have helped contribute to our plan. One piece of information that we got, that we collected from March till June, is feedback on instructional platforms. So for example, parents having children that might have 2 or 3 or 4 different platforms amongst the grade level and just causing confusion. So what we wanted to do is simplify that. Simplify devices and simplify platforms. So all students will be issued a device. We're hoping that we can begin distribution of the electronic devices before school. And more communication will come out with that. So students in grades K through 2 and students in 7th and 8th grade will receive iPads. Grades 3 through 6 and grades 9 through 12 will receive Chromebooks. All students in grades K through 2 will use Seesaw, which is a program that they used this last year from March to June successfully as their educational platform. We will also use Google Meet and Microsoft Teams as the virtual platform if we have to have virtual meetings, class meetings, things like that. All students in grades 3 through 12 will use Schoology or Google Classroom. We'll use both of those systems, as we will phase out Schoology this year, but there's been some teachers that have used it for a number of years. So to convert that over to Google Classroom, it will take a little bit of time, but we will move towards Google Classroom. For our virtual meetings, we'll use Google Meet and Microsoft Teams. Those are the platforms that we'll be using as we move forward. And I can't thank enough about feedback from teachers and from parents with regards to, can we simplify the educational platforms? And this is the result of that. So thank you very much for that feedback. We'll transition to transportation. Students' temperatures will be checked at home by a guardian to ensure a temperature of less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that they do not or are not showing any signs and symptoms of illness in that morning before getting on the district transportation. Students who wait at transportation stops with students who do not live in their household should maintain social distancing of at least 6 feet at the bus stop. That does not have to happen with family members in which you live with. This is part of our instructional plan. We will teach kids what that looks like. We are also putting together short 20 to 40 second videos on different segments of what it's like to get on a bus, what's it like to wait at the bus stop, what's it like to come into school, what's it like to go into your classroom and get your food. So we're going to be posting those. Well, I think we record on August 24th. We'll record a bunch of those, and then we'll make those to just kind of help ease a little bit on what does it look like for my child to do this. So we're going to put together a bunch of those videos, and then we'll make those readily available on our social media outlets. Students will be required to wear face coverings at all times while on district transportation. All school personnel, it would be your school bus drivers and your monitors, will also be required to wear face coverings at all times while on district transportations. Students will be assigned seats and maintaining social distancing while on transportation, with the exception of brothers, sisters, siblings, or kids that live in the same household together. They can sit in the same seat. They do not have to socially distance, but a face covering still is required in those situations. If the temperature is greater than 45 degrees, all windows will be open, weather permitting, to increase ventilation on buses. Bus schedules will be communicated the week of August 24th with regards to the time of pickup and the time of drop-off. We'll transition to health and safety. Students will be dropped off at designated locations at school. So for example, this is not the plan, this could be a plan. So for example, I'll use a K-6 building where the parent drop-off is in the loop. If you actually look at it, there's 3 exterior entrances, if you will. If you come up the chute, on the right-hand side when you first get there, there's old middle school entrance. And then you progress around to where the canopy is, the entrance that we've used in last year is another entrance. And then if you loop around where the old elementary entrance was. So there's actually 3 exterior entrances there. So for example, when you first come up the loop, perhaps maybe grades 5 and 6 get off at the middle school, the old middle school entrance. And that's where health screenings will take place as they enter the building from there. As you progress up around the bus loop, maybe, or the parent loop where the main entrance is currently, that could be perhaps grades 3 through 4 to stagger the entrances. And if you progress around to the old elementary office entrance where the kindergarten wing is, that might be where kindergarten and first get off, again, to help prevent any type of bottlenecking, make it easy to grab any health questionnaires, anything like that as we go to those classrooms. Very similar to the high school. If you come up to the high school horseshoe parking lot, you have 3 entrances, one by the cafeteria, another entrance near the health office, and one by the canopy. So for example, maybe one is dedicated to 7th and 8th grade, one for 9, 10, one for 11, 12, so we can have stagger entrances. Each student will be scanned to ensure temperature of less than 100 degrees upon entering the buildings, or for example, maybe kindergarten in their classrooms when they get in. I know that we said that we're going to have parents do the health screening and the temperature as well too, but the school district will do that as well on a daily basis, checking the temperature. All students and staff will be required to wear a face covering while traveling throughout the building. So for example, if a class is moving from one room to another or going to a special, if a student is going to the bathroom, going to the nurse's office, going to the main office, okay, face covering would be required as they go. Face coverings will be provided to those that need it, but we encourage you to, if your child has their favorite face covering, please have them wear it. I know my son is a 4-year-old. He's going into kindergarten. He's got a Spider-Man mask. He loves it. My daughter is 2 years old. She's got her Frozen mask. We've been teaching them what it's all about to wear the mask and why it's important. So we encourage to bring their own. There was a question earlier in one of the sessions, are gaiters okay where you can pull up? Absolutely. So a face covering like that. And again, district will provide them if they are needed to both staff and students. All students and staff must wear a face covering if they cannot maintain at least 6 feet of social distancing. All classrooms accommodating students, so all instructional classrooms have been set up for social distancing guidelines of 6 feet around every desk. And we'll show some examples of what classrooms look like, which means, so if I have a class and I have 12 kids in my class and it's socially distanced, just as what we are here in the auditorium this evening, and I'm the teacher and I start class, right? Then we can remove our face coverings because we can maintain social distancing, okay? It's when we can't maintain social distancing, say I'm the student and I need to get up and throw something out, or I need to work with my teacher, or I need to work in a small group, okay, then a face covering needs to go on. If I need to go use the restroom, right, then a face covering will need to go on. A face covering must be worn if social distancing cannot be put into place. If social distancing can be put into place with 6 feet as our classrooms are set up, right, then the face covering can be removed. Water bottle filling stations will be utilized. There are currently 4 in the elementary school right now. They are touch-free, where you literally take your water bottle and it is touch-free. They will fill your water bottles up. We have ordered 4 more for the elementary and 5 for the high school. As you can imagine, they are in popular demand for businesses and school. We placed our order July 27th. We will get shipment tentatively right now. It's September 17th. We are ready to install those once we get them, but we will be using bottled water in addition to the 4 bottle filling stations in the elementary. And we'll be using bottled water to provide for students throughout the day. Food service. Sidney Central School District will have free breakfast and free lunch again this year. So free breakfast will be available at designated locations in each building as students enter the building. The exception to this would be your younger students is like kindergarten, which will be delivered to their classroom. Free lunch will be served to each classroom in the elementary school. In the junior, senior high school, small groups of students will go to the cafeteria to pick up their meals, and then students will eat in designated locations. So for an example, of small groups that may go, students that perhaps maybe have a food allergy that need to go get special attention, if you will, during mealtime, that could be an example of that. Students may bring their own lunch to school, but foods cannot be shared with peers. So again, they can bring their own lunch. This includes birthday and holiday snacks that cannot be shared. There will be no a la carte options in the buildings, both the elementary and the high school. Food service for all students who are virtually or full remote learning environment will be available for pickup once a week. We're actually going to stick with our same schedule that we have since July 1. July 1, we do a Wednesday food pickup for the entire week. So we're going to be consistent with that. Food will be available on Wednesdays from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock at the high school attendance office where the canopy is. And again, we'll ask parents in the full remote model to register to see if they would like that as an option. Again, meals will be 5 days worth on the pickup on the Wednesday. Cleaning and disinfecting. We could do a whole presentation on cleaning and disinfecting, but to give the gist of this is classrooms will contain hand sanitizers for students and staff. All classrooms, all instructional spaces that will be occupied by students will have hand sanitizers. Students will be encouraged to wash their hands multiple times per day, but that goes back to, we'll teach what those protocols are, right? That'll be part of our orientation to coming to school is what does that look like, right? How do we practice good hygiene while we're at school? Classrooms will have sanitizing solution and wipes for staff to disinfect work surfaces. So for example, if I'm an art teacher, right, and I have a group of students in there, I would spray down the surfaces that students were in. I'd wipe down I would sanitize those tabletops and any chairs before the next group of students come in. Instructional spaces and offices will be cleaned on a daily basis, and students will not be disinfecting instructional spaces. Okay, I just reiterate this. Students will not be disinfecting instructional spaces. Having said that, if I'm eating lunch in my classroom and I get crumbs on my desk, I'm absolutely going to be responsible for cleaning up my crumbs and throwing them in the garbage along with my garbage. But as far as disinfecting instructional spaces, students will not do that. We are very fortunate as a district to have what's called Clorox 360 machines. We've had these pre-COVID, but we have 4 machines, and we can go into a classroom, we can spray down the classroom, and within 10 minutes, we can go back in that classroom with a new group of students. Again, we've had these machines pre-COVID. We've used them right along. So we are very fortunate to be able to have those machines to help with this process. So the Sidney Central School District schedules. So the first day of school is Thursday, September 10th, as we've planned. Again, those will be in our district calendar, but again, the first day of school is Thursday, September 10th. So New York State required school districts across the state to develop 3 models of instruction. The first being a full in-person, which is what traditionally we know, everybody comes back to school. The next is what's called a hybrid, where there's a reduced capacity of enrollment or reduced capacity of physically being in school. So perhaps maybe half the student body on day 1, half on day 2, day A, day B, maroon, white, however that might be, but a reduced capacity on a daily basis. And the third model is what they call a virtual or a full remote learning model. That's what we came to know in March to June, where all students will be learning remotely. So elementary in-person schedule. So we are planning to bring back all students K-6 every day, Monday through Friday. So again, I'll say that again. We are planning to bring back all kids K-6 Monday through Friday. At this time, we will not be offering a UPK program, and I'll tell you a little bit why. Is the ratio of UPK as students of what we can have is 8 students to 1 adult. We have a half-day program, which means we would have 8 kids in the morning and 8 kids in the afternoon, totaling of 16 kids, or 8 kids full day. And we had to make a decision based on what we knew. Do we reduce class sizes for kindergarten and first grade, or do we have a 1-to-8 ratio with UPK? So we decided to reassign the UPK teacher to kindergarten to lower the class sizes because the enrollment in UPK, or I'm sorry, and the enrollment in kindergarten right now, as we speak, on the 13th of August is 73. Class sizes and cohorts will be based on New York State and the Department of Health guidelines to maintain properly socially distanced protocols. Kindergarten and first grade, as I just mentioned, will be a smaller number of classmates. Students in grades 2 through 6 will be in instructional locations that ensure social distancing can be maintained. Students will be with their teachers receiving in-person instruction every day. This is something we know that our students will benefit the most being in front of our teachers. We have unbelievable teachers, and that's why they teach. So it is something that we thought was imperative based on the data that we collected in our last community survey. We had an unbelievable turnout of results. We had over 450 unique responses, which actually made up over 831 of our student body in that survey, and 86% said they're sending students back, right? So we were committed in having a 5-day-a-week program from day one. It is a huge undertaking, there's no question about it. But we heard the community, we listened to the community, and we're gonna move forward with this model here, where not only K-6 every day, but in front of their teachers, direct instruction. Students will receive specials on a rotational basis, very similar to previous years. It may look a little bit different, but as far as your physical education and your art and your music, and I'm probably forgetting something, robotics, they will be on a rotational basis as it has been in years past. Somebody had asked previously in a previous session, and just addressed here is, will students be sitting in the classroom all day long in the same classroom? The answer to that is no. We're going to have to be transient a little bit. The idea is to minimize transitions, right? Where teachers might move more than students might move. Will art maybe be in the classroom? Yes, it might be in the classroom. But the idea is to minimize how often cohorts mingle or cohorts mix. Each student will receive an electronic device to access educational materials and materials to support their learning. This is something that I mentioned with the technology and the educational platforms, where we hope to get out electronic devices prior to school start, but that will be part of our orientation when we start school on Thursday the 10th, is to teach the kids the platforms, the devices, and also offer parent support at home with tutorials on what that support could look like. And then daily attendance is mandatory and will be taken in the full in-person model. An example of a schedule for an elementary student. As you see, 7:40 to 8:10, we'll open the building at 7:40. 8:10, this is when we're going to take care of health screenings, temperature checks, and breakfast. For the first few weeks, might it be past 8:10? Yes, it might be past 8:10 for us to be able to work all this stuff out. But for example, 8:10 to 8:50 would be guided play, math. The next period after that would be math, a block of ELA, lunch and recess. It was paramount for us to, as a district, to tie in social and emotional learning. We know that we're going to have multiple challenges with this, but this will be part of the school day, is addressing social and emotional needs of all kids. Physical education, music, elementary are familiar with when, what I need periods, and closing circles. So that's an example, not necessarily in that order, but that would be an example of what a full in-person schedule could potentially look like. Next up is a slide, and this is feedback from this morning's session, the earlier sessions, is what would a classroom look like? So we wanted to make sure that we provided what a classroom could look like in the elementary school with a divider wall opened up and socially distanced. Notice the hand sanitizers by the doors when you walk in. And again, a hand sanitizer by another exterior door of the classroom. So this was 2 classrooms opened up into 1. Socially distanced. Yes, so there will be chairs there. We just don't have chairs there. They are socially distanced desks, just to give you a perception on, a perspective on what the classroom could look like. And that is a classroom, elementary classroom of 20, socially distanced. Again, trying to maximize our space. If by chance we have to go to an elementary hybrid schedule, remember the state required districts to create 3 models, full in person, a hybrid, and fully remote. So if regulations and guidance from New York State Ed and Department of Health change, we will follow a hybrid schedule. What will the hybrid schedule look like? Students will be divided into cohorts, as they really already will be. Cohorts just means small groups, and they would try to keep those small groups together throughout the day. It might look like a day 1, day 2 schedule, an A-B schedule, maroon white type of schedule. where a portion of kids would come one day, a portion of the kids would come the other day. So that's what the hybrid schedule would look like. When students are not physically in school, they'll be assigned a schedule and will have access to live and recorded lessons. Again, this is the hybrid model. Teachers will identify which standards need to be taught in person and which standards can be taught virtually. We are very blessed that our teachers for a number of years now have prioritized learning standards. We have very clear and very updated academic blueprints, and they've done a brilliant job of prioritizing what is most important either in person or can be done virtually. So that has been done and in the process of still. Each student, as I mentioned, will receive an electronic device to access educational programs. Students will get access to educational or electronic devices even in the full in-person, right off the bat, as I mentioned, not just if we go to a hybrid. We'll do that right off the bat, and again, hopefully prior to school starting into some capacity. Another important thing that we heard from parents from March to June is support for online learning. I never had to do it, right? As the parents saying, we never had to do it. We don't know what it looks like. You know, can you provide us some support? At the time, I wish we could have provided some support. We just couldn't because we didn't know what that support looked like, truthfully, as we transitioned to the online world. But now we're much more prepared for this. So for example, we might have online tutorials, something like this in a Zoom meeting with breakouts where it might be a Google Classroom, it might be how to use Microsoft Teams, it might be how to use Seesaw. So we know that is a critical piece, is to be able to provide families with online learning support throughout this process. And also in the hybrid model, daily attendance is mandatory and will be taken. So for example, if we're in a hybrid model, it's easy to take attendance for the students who are physically there, right? What do you do about the students that are remote on the every other day schedule? And the clear answer to that is we're not quite sure, right? I mean, we're working through this. It's evolving as we're going through this. But the state has also talked about is if students aren't physically in attendance, right, you can take attendance through engagement. So what does that engagement look like? Maybe I have a Microsoft Teams meeting, class meeting, and students are logged on. Maybe it's posting something in the Google Classroom, right, to show that there's participation in that. So again, attendance in a hybrid and fully remote can look different, right? It's not just I have to call me up to see if I'm physically there. It can be through student engagement, and that can look it can look like a lot of different models. If there is a need to go fully remote, as we did in March to June, then we will. It'll look very similar to what it did in March and June. Teachers will follow grade level curriculum. Students will be assigned a schedule. Instruction will be provided, as I mentioned, in the hybrid model, both in live and in recorded lessons. Again, students will have devices, but again, we're going to go students with devices right off the bat, right? So that we don't have to do the mass distribution as we did in March. Again, it will be paramount for the district to be able to support students and families with online learning and support at home and technology assistance. And again, the full remote learning, as I mentioned, daily attendance is mandatory and will be taken. It just might look a little bit different. We'll transition to the junior, senior high school schedule. Again, all buildings in all districts had to come up with the three models: the full in-person, the hybrid, and the virtual full remote learning. So we'll start with the first one, the full in-person. This would be if all students in grades 7 through 10 attend a traditional school setting as we've known it in the past. At this time, for grades 7 through 12, this is not an option for the 2021 school year. We can't meet the requirement of all students in social distancing. So we will skip right to the hybrid model. So students in grades 7 through 12 will be on an every other day schedule, or a day 1 and a day 2 schedule, AB, maroon, white, whatever we call it, but it's an every other day schedule. And we'll talk a little bit more about what some examples like that will look like. And then the third one, full remote learning. This is where all students will be learning remotely. So there will be 4 groups of students, if you will, and this is 7 to 12. So for example, group A would be a day 1 in person, a day 2 would be remote, right? And then on group B on day 1 would be virtual, and then they would flip on day 2 and it would be in person. And I'll show a model of that in just a second. Group C in person is every school day. So for example, group C perhaps could be students that are English language learners. They could be students that have been identified as most at risk, perhaps maybe with an IEP, need special needs. So they would be on an everyday rotation. That would be they would be on an everyday schedule, sorry. And that would be a case by case and communicated directly with those families. And then group D will be the parents and the students that choose the full remote learning option. So for example, in the hybrid schedule, if we take a traditional Monday, group A would be in person, group B would be remote, which means group A would be in person Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of that week, and group B would be in person Tuesday and Thursday of that week. They would switch the following week, right, where group B would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and group A would be Tuesday, Thursday. An example of a 7th grade schedule, we're going to try to stick as normal as we can to a 9-period day. As you'll notice, if you see homeroom right off the bat from a 7:40 to an 8:10, in previous years, grade 7 through 12 has started at 7:55. We have aligned the K6 and the 7:12 starting time to be 8:10, and this is really to accommodate health screenings, temperature checks, breakfast, just morning orientation to get this school underway. 7th grade perhaps is the advisory period right off the beginning of the day from 8:10 to 8:48, and then you'll see the rotation of classes from there. Students in grade 7 through 12 will be switching classes. Again, it's the attempt to cohort kids and cohort classrooms, right, to minimize transitions. So might teachers move from one classroom to another classroom? A teacher taught an ELA class in this, but the kids stay the same, and the math teacher comes in after that. Remember, we're trying to minimize the transition with students for cleaning purposes, disinfectant purposes, and efficient and effective systems. So will students transition to other classrooms, for example, like laboratory sciences, things like that? Absolutely, yep. But again, we're trying to minimize that transition time, if you will, and keeping students together as cohorts. So for example, next you will see a high school classroom, a 7-12 classroom set up with 12, a seating for 12. So as you see in there, getting 12 socially distanced is actually a perfect size for the square footage of those rooms. Each room is a little bit different, but you get the point of being able to space out like that, 6 feet all the way around every desk. In most classrooms, we're able to do that. So you can get anywhere from 12 to 13 in the classrooms. It just depends. We use the kind of standard of 12 per classroom in the secondary level. Couple things to note with the junior, senior high school, lockers will not be utilized. Students will be able to carry their backpacks. Recommendations for what students need to bring in-person school will be discussed and provided to our students. And then room changes are occurring so that teams can be grouped. Students can be cohorted together to minimize movement of both students and staff. So again, I just want to reiterate that yes, students will be moving to and from classes, right? But we're trying to minimize those transitions. And when they're moving from class to class, obviously, they would be lined up in the hallway, perhaps maybe not social distancing. So face coverings would be required as a transition from class to class. Again, with staggered bell schedules and things like that. A couple of notes, like I said, with the junior, senior high school schedule. We'll transition into testing protocol. So all of the schools in the DCMO BOCES area met with the 4 Department of County Health Departments, Madison, Otsego, Delaware, and Shenango. As you know, Sidney Central School District is not just made up of one county, but multiple counties. So testing protocols as we go through here, and again, this is directly from the Delaware County, or the 4 region, if you will, county health departments. So if and when a student presents symptoms, signs or symptoms of COVID, in that link, again, this will be posted on our district website and our social media. That link just takes you to the CDC signs and symptoms of COVID. The individual should be sent home if students are showing signs and symptoms or have a fever of over 100. The parent or guardian of the student should consult with their child's doctor to determine whether or not a testing is necessary. If a family does not have a doctor or the doctor is unavailable, a good resource is the Bassett Healthcare Network COVID-19 Central line, which will be provided here. And then for a list of testing sites, if you go to this website on New York State's website, If you type in where you live, Sydney, you type in the address or the zip code, it will give you the closest testing sites to where you live. Also, staff members who report any symptoms of COVID-19 should contact their primary care physician and discuss whether or not testing is appropriate or not in that situation. Again, that's for staff. Now, transition from testing protocols to steps to follow after testing occurs. So, for example, please know that when an individual with symptoms is tested for COVID, they're asked to quarantine by their health care provider until they receive their test results. This will be communicated from the Department of Health. This is not a Sidney Central School District thing. This is not a health office at Sidney Central School District. This is the Department of Health, Delaware County Department of Health. If the test comes back negative, then they are notified by their healthcare provider and no longer need to quarantine and may return to school after symptoms have resolved. Unless the individual is placed into quarantine due to an exposure to a positive case. And then they will, in this instance, exposure to a positive case, the individual will complete the full quarantine regardless of the negative test. But again, that is communicated by the Delaware County Department of Health or the county in which you reside in. If the test comes back positive, they're notified by their healthcare provider, and the Delaware County Public Health will contact them for a case investigation, otherwise known as contact tracing. The individual will be issued an order of isolation for a minimum of 10 days from the symptom onset. The Delaware County Public Health will conduct daily follow-up and release individuals from isolation when appropriate. Again, this is not Sidney Central School District communicating that. This is the Delaware County Health Department that will communicate this out, right? And that's why it's important for all school districts to communicate this, because it's not a school communication piece, right? It will be a Department of Health communication piece. So let's transition into contact tracing. So Delaware County Public Health will be responsible for all contact tracing that they would for any positive case located in Delaware County, just the same as in the school district. Delaware County Public Health will work closely with the school district and families to identify all close contacts. The Delaware County Health Department has asked the school district to provide bus logs that includes the student's first name, last name, parent name, and contact information. That's a cohort, it's a small cohort on a bus, right? The next thing that they've asked for is class lists with student's name, parent name, and contact. Again, small cohorts, easily, according to the Delaware County Health Department, easily traceable, much easier than what they're dealing with now, trying to locate contact information of people and of that nature. So they've asked for that information from the school district. Individuals identified as contacts will be notified and issue quarantine orders. If the individuals live in the Delaware County, they will receive daily follow-up and monitoring to ensure compliance by the Delaware County Public Health contact tracing team. If the individuals live in another county, it will be the county in which you reside in. So Shenango, Otsego, right? Where you reside in, that county will follow up with a contact tracing and provide guidance on compliance from there. Delaware County Public Health will work closely with the school district on guidance related to cleaning and additional testing of students and staff. We will be under their guidance. The last thing with contact tracing is school buildings of a positive case may shut down. It's important that it's highlighted it. May shut down. Not guaranteed, but may shut down. It's a case-by-case type of situation for at least 24 hours. And the purpose of the 24-hour shutdown will be cleaning and disinfecting and to ensure contact tracing can be done. So for example, May, let's say somebody in the district office, right, tests positive. We would not shut down the entire district, right? Not necessarily, right? Once the contact tracing is there, and then we would go from there based on what the Department of Health said. So it's not a guarantee that you automatically shut down with a positive case. It's consultation and that collaborative effort with the Department of Health and the school district to look at who or what the exposure could have taken place and where. These flow charts, I'm not going to go in depth with each one of these flow charts. These flow charts were developed regionally, again, with the BOCES, DCMO BOCES, and partnership with the county health departments. They are also the 3 last pages on our district reopening plan that are on our website that were also submitted to the Department of Health and to New York State Education Department. They are the last 3 pages, and these will be included on our website as well too. Again, this presentation is being recorded and will be posted for your accessibility later on as well too. So the first flow chart is just students suspected or positive case of COVID, kind of the step-by-step of what happens. Okay, just a good visual of what the process is. The next flow chart is employee suspected or positive case of COVID-19. Again, kind of step by step. If yes, then this. If no, that type of process with this. And the last one, if you come in contact with a suspected or positive case of COVID-19, again, what is this step-by-step piece to this? Every school district in New York State was required to designate a COVID-19 coordinator. The district's COVID-19 coordinator will be Mr. Antonio Stenta. He's also our director of school improvement. We are going to use one central email location for all things communication-wise with COVID-19. So the email for that is communications@sydneycsd.org, or you can also call 607-561-7703. That is the number to the high school for anything related to COVID-19. So for example, if there's a question with regards to health and safety, it may be diverted to the health and safety subcommittee. If there's any questions with operations, it might be diverted towards the team leader of the plant operations. If there's questions with the continuity of learning, schedules, anything that deals with teaching and learning, that would be diverted toward to Mr. Hanson, the elementary principal, Mrs. Forby, the high school principal. And last, there will be an official Sidney Central School, there is an official Sidney Central School District fall attendance registration form posted on social media now and our website. It will look similar to the survey in which was many people filled out 3 weeks ago or so, but we're asking that all families fill this out for all students. And the reason for this is what we're going to build class lists off. This is what we're going to build staffing models off. This is what we're going to build transportation routes off of. So we had an unbelievable and overwhelming response to the survey, and I can't thank the Sidney Central School District community enough. That's a great example of the hashtag Warrior Pride, all in this together that I've said in school messenger calls, so I can't thank you enough for that. This form is going to be, it's posted now, we posted this morning, it will run until Tuesday. It will run until next Tuesday. And the reason for that, we're posting it concurrently with these meetings so that you have the most up-to-date and accurate information to be able to make the decision in which you need to make for your family, right? So we're running this so that you can watch the video, you can ask questions, you have some time to process over the weekend, but we ask that this is filled out by Tuesday so that we can, again, start to build transportation schedules, start to build class list, staffing models, and things like that. So again, that form is posted on social media. It is on our district website, and it will be up until Tuesday. If you're not sick of school messenger calls, you'll probably get a school messenger call on Sunday at 5:30 to reiterate this. But again, we want to make sure that we communicate timely and accurate with our school community. And at this time, I'm going to ask Mrs. Johnson, who is our assistant superintendent, to help facilitate some questions as we go through here.
A reminder that when questions are asked from the audience that we repeat the question so folks know what you're answering.
So if there's a question asked by somebody in the audience, probably we'll repeat it so that people at home can hear as well too.
Questions about remote learning, about what didn't work great March through June, and how that could look differently if a family were to select remote learning or even the hybrid learning part.
Yeah, so I mean, we've learned a lot from March to June and what that could be. So we know that there needs to be greater support on the, well, we know first we needed to simplify the instructional platforms used in a remote setting. We knew that that was causing lots of frustration. It was just cumbersome. So we simplified that. So that's going to be a start. We also know that parents were in need of proper support to be able to help their student. I remember I was on the phone multiple times with parents. I want to help them, I just don't know how to help them, right? So we want to make sure that we provide the support for parents on what that platform looks like, how you can help with that platform. I know personally, my son was in UPK last year and we used Seesaw, and I was trying to learn Seesaw, and I'm somewhat tech savvy. And I was trying to learn Seesaw, and the 4-year-old knew better than dad, and I was trying to support him with that. So we know that we need to do online tutorials for families and students to be able to help with those platforms. We also know that connectivity with their teachers, right? What does that remote learning look like? Connection with their teachers, whether it would be live recordings, whether it be recorded or live sessions, whether it be recorded sessions with the lessons. But we know that there's got to be contact with teachers with that. And I'll be honest with you, the full remote will be a work in progress, right? We know what we know from March to June. We have definitely will be more equipped to be able to do that, but it'll be a work in progress.
Tanya, I see that you've raised your hand. I can't respond to that on the screen, but if you type your question in the Q&A part on the bottom of your screen, we will absolutely respond to your question. Sorry, Mr. Bullock.
That's fine.
Question, will physical education be, or excuse me, will swimming be included in physical education?
It's a good question. We actually just received guidance yesterday on pools and fitness centers. Their pools are able to be used. Right now, we do not have a plan to use the pool to start school, and fitness centers are not permitted at this time. But that guidance I just saw it yesterday. So they are permitted, and I'll be honest, I haven't read through the guidance on what pools can, what the restrictions are for pools yet, but it could be something that we ease into once we get underway with school.
How will recess work?
To get outside as much as possible. So recess is going to be part of the school day, and we hope to get outside. Might have happened in some classrooms. Now the classrooms are a little bit larger for sure. Gymnasiums, but if we can get outside, we'll for sure get outside.
The classroom that Mr. Bullock shared looks great, but that is usually for 2 classes. How can you fit all students? How many of those big rooms do you have? So
Sidney Central School District is extremely fortunate to have the space that we do. This is something that's coupling a lot of other districts, is they don't have the space that we do. So we're fortunate to have three large gymnasiums in the elementary building. We're fortunate to have a cafetorium. We're fortunate to have an old shop that is vacant and a large square footage. We're fortunate to have a beautiful library. So we're utilizing those spaces as classrooms as well.
What does BOCES look like for our students? I believe that question is specific to CTE.
Sure, CTE. So for what we know right now, CTE is going to look very similar to what it has in the past, where our juniors will go in the morning session and our seniors will go in the PM session. That's the plan for right now.
Concerned about remote learning. Not sure if it's full remote learning or the hybrid learning model that the question is specific to. So maybe a clarification that hybrid learning is for 7th through 12th graders and is every other day. I think you answered that question. Yep. On how we will be different in September than we were March to June.
Yes.
How about those that do not have internet service or it can be interrupted? How would remote participation occur?
This is a work in progress. I wish I had a great answer for that, but I don't. We're exploring accessibility for hotspots, exploring accessibility with businesses and maybe public libraries where we could tie in hotspots to that for accessibility, school buses with hotspots in certain geographical areas. Yeah, it's something that we surveyed 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago when we did the survey. Actually, it was more than that, a couple months ago actually when we did the survey on connectivity, and we were actually quite surprised with the number that had connectivity. So that will be a case-by-case basis. If somebody doesn't have connectivity, absolutely report to the school so that we know and we can start to take measures to address that.
What are the plans for the after-school program?
So right now, the after-school program is going to be put on hold for the first 10 weeks so that we can get oriented with school. We've talked about it. We have a plan in our back pocket with this, but to not bite off more than what we can chew right now, we're going to wait to start the after-school program until at least the first 10 weeks. We'll reassess it during the first 10 weeks to see if it's manageable.
When will we know what schedules will look like for remote students?
I would think somewhat similar to students that are going to be in person. I would say probably the last week of August, roughly.
Will 7 through 12 students that have siblings in different grades be in the same groups attending school on the same day?
Yes. So that's part of the cohorting, where any family, whether it be elementary or middle school, they would be attending on the same day. It's kind of a moot point for elementary because they'll be here every day. But yes, they will be cohorted together. And if it's something that they're not and it's an oversight, we've actually cohorted kids right now by family, but if it's something that you get a schedule and it's different, please contact either the elementary office or the high school office, and that'll be rectified. But yes, we're planning for cohorting of families.
Is there a way to get the enrollment form mailed? It's a Google survey, and if you don't have internet or unable to access that survey via the internet, if you call that 561-7703 number, a staff person on the other end of the phone will record your answers.
Yeah, we did that during the last survey too, where we posted the phone number and just call in and we can just record the data.
Sorry, I lost myself again. Are elementary students allowed to do full remote learning?
Yes. And there was a question, does a student need a medical note to do full remote learning? And the answer to that is no.
What are the expectations of the parents? I'm concerned with co-teaching. I depend on the school district for education. Maybe virtual learning, the hybrid model the person's referring to?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If you can send us a clarification to that, either in the Q&A or on that communications email, that would be spectacular. Will kindergarten orientation be virtual or in person?
No, good question. Thank you very much for answering this or bringing this question up. Is kindergarten orientation will be in person, and it's going to be scheduled for August 25th. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Scheduled for Tuesday, August 25th. And there will also be a 7th grade orientation in person as well. I do not have the date yet for that. But.
Question about sports.
So sports right now are on hold until September 21st. The New York State Public Athletic Association is going to make a determination on September 21st with more guidance.
Substitute teachers. Will there be a select few with previous testing that are able to sub in the district? Yes,
we're going to, substitute teachers will do something very similar. We have a substitute teacher orientation where they'll go through training just like our staff will. So yes, substitute teachers will be there.
When will we receive school supply lists?
I don't have a definitive date for that. I know that we've talked about in-person attendance, what the needs will be for that. We're also looking at a school. We're also looking within the school as saying, can we provide the resources so that there is no necessary supplies outside? So we're looking to see if we can do that all in-house for all students.
When will elementary students have to wear masks?
When elementary students can't socially distance 6 feet. So for example, if we're working in small groups or if we are walking to the bathroom, if we can't socially distance of 6 feet is kind of the general rule of thumb for that.
Transportation question. Can you sign your child up for bus transportation just for the morning or just for the afternoon?
Yes. Yep.
In case for an elementary student, in case we end up having to go to remote learning completely, what support would the school give to a family?
Well, first you have the electronic device. Hopefully tutorials of how to use the platform specific to that grade level. And then again, remember, attendance has to be taken even in a fully remote model. Attendance can be through engagement as well too. So what supports? Supports on the actual device itself, recorded or pre-recorded, live or pre-recorded lessons that would go along, speak with that learning platform.
And there was a question embedded in that was, if we were fully remote, both of these parents work full time and their particular babysitter does not have internet access.
Yeah, I guess one of the things about being fully remote is you don't have to necessarily do the work during the school day 8 to 3, right? The work could be done outside of the normal school day. That would be a possibility. I know that we've talked to some families about that. So I guess doesn't necessarily have to be that set schedule of ELA at 8:10. So I would say flexibility within when that work is being done.
Will there be hand washing breaks?
Yeah, hand washing is going to be part of the personal hygiene training that we'll do within the school. From kindergarten to 12th grade of how to wash our hands. Maybe we sing the ABC song when we're washing our hands. I know I've been doing a lot of that at my house, but yes, that'll be part of our orientation back to school of what those personal hygiene trainings will look like for all kids.
How will remote students be included or be able to participate in a classroom community?
Yeah, we know that that's an important piece to that. What is it exactly going to look like? I can't answer that question. But a possibility could be that all remote learners will have a section to themselves. So remote learners is a cohort, as I mentioned, is group D, if you will. So maybe that's let's say there's 6 kids that are remote learners in 9th grade and they're in the algebra class. Perhaps maybe they're in the same Microsoft Teams class together virtually. Maybe they can get into a live algebra class during the day. So it can look a couple different ways, well, a bunch of different ways. But as far as to answer your question directly, it can look like a few different ways for sure.
If we make a choice to have our child do in-person or do remote and then want to make a change before the end of the quarter, can we do that?
Yeah, that's a good question too. We're going to learn a lot as we get into the first 10 weeks. If you've noticed in the registration form that we have live right now, we've asked parents to commit into a 10-week commitment, either with the remote learning or the in-person. We're doing that just for consistency and to build the staff model, the transportation model, things like that, as I mentioned previously. Is that set in stone for 10 weeks? No. Could there be change? For sure.
Oops, sorry. Let's jump in. If we go to remote learning and a child needs extra learning help, what extra help could the child get from the school?
I would say when the teacher contacts the family of the child in that situation is communicate with the teacher, communicate with the principal on what those needs might be.
Not a question, but thank you so much. You are all rock stars.
Thank you. Thank you. We got an awesome school community.
What will orientation look like for remote students? Will they still attend the in-person orientation?
Sure, they could. Yeah, they absolutely could. Kindergarten, 7th grade, I'm just thinking those are the 2 scheduled orientations. Maybe a family wants to come take a look and see what it looks like before school starts to get an idea what a classroom looks like. So we definitely do something like that as well too. Yep.
Oh, so close. Will students know what group they are in prior to the beginning of school?
Yes. So the idea is to get I'm assuming the hybrid model, right? Group A, Group B is yes. The idea is when the schedule goes out with the classes that they would know right then Group A or Group B where they start. Yep. Yep.
And they did add in all caps underneath their question, Sidney school kicks butt.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Again, we have a great school community, no question about it, super supportive. Truly mean it when we talk about we're all in this together and the hashtag Warrior Pride. Our whole plan, our whole team, our staff, we had an unbelievable staff meeting on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. We had 116, 120 or so online. We had 45 here. And when I mean that we're all in this together, I mean we're all this together, and it's supportive and it's awesome and it's collaborative. And it's really built on 3 words that we talked about: patience, empathy, resiliency, and relationships that we have with each other. And can't thank the parents enough, can't thank the kids enough, can't thank the staff enough, the administrative team here tonight. Thank you so much. But yeah, we're all in this together. Hashtag Warrior Pride. And I think that's all for questions right now. Any questions in-house?
For students who have like IEP stuff, how are their views of those extra things?
So question, and I'll speak it more in generalities, is students that have, let's say, IEPs, how will those services be provided? How will we ensure that the IEP is met? And the answer to that is, if it's on IEP, it's going to be met. And for example, students, again, as I mentioned, in Group C, if you will, they may attend every day. Related services will absolutely be part of the rotation. direct consultant teacher will be absolutely part of those rotations if that's what's one of the accommodations. So it may be everyday attendance, and we'll just make sure that the IEP is met for sure. I mean, those are all things right now being taken into consideration. Mrs. Halbert, if you know Mrs. Halbert, longtime teacher here, is our CSE chairperson, who is going through every IEP with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that those are accommodations being met. Yeah, the question is, when will parents be communicated, really with schedules, if you will? Yep. We hope that we can get them out, I would say probably the week of the August 24th to the 28th, get them out, which means you get them the August 31st to the September 4th. It's going to be, I mean, keep in mind, we're collecting all of the data from the community, and that closes on Tuesday. I would imagine that we still have to make some follow-up phone calls to parents to get that in, which gives us a very small window to develop a lot of schedules for a lot of kids. So realistically, by the time families get them, it would probably be the week of the 31st to September 3rd that week. Another question.
Power school is supposed to be the
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the question in the audience is the school district still going to utilize Power School for a parent portal to be able to check on this stuff? The answer is to that, yes. Yep. Power School will not change this year. Parent portal will still be open as it normally would. Good question. Thank you very much. Any other questions in person? Questions? All right.
One more?
One more question.
Sorry.
Yep.
If a child has a fever, where are they isolated? Who is contacted?
Yep. That's another good question. So let's say a student has a fever or feels ill, they will go to the health office. Each health office in the elementary school and the secondary level really almost has like 3 avenues, if you will. The first avenue is like your normal well visit, like my belly hurts, I don't feel well, I need to lay down, right? There's one avenue. The other avenue is, let's say that I'm diabetic and I need to go and see the nurse, or I have an inhaler, I have asthma, I go, that would be another one where we're going to administer medicine. And then the other avenue would be more like your isolation, your COVID related type of stuff. So somebody comes in, I think I have a fever, right? Then they go see the nurse and they go into an isolation room that we have both in the elementary school and high school. Isolation room, I don't want to sound like isolation room is in a small little closet somewhere in the corner, right? It's actually a negative pressure room, right? Where you have exterior, a door, so better ventilation. Nurses, again, will have appropriate PPE to address that. So that's kind of the overview of both the elementary and the high school. The school Bassett Healthcare System, the school-based health clinic is open. It is open now. It will further its hours on Monday, August 24th, and then we'll go to Monday through Friday, normal operation hours once school starts as well, too. They can. Yep, just as normal. Yep.
There was a question of who would be contacted.
Oh, the question would be, parent would be contacted. Parent or emergency contact, just like what we would in Power School as normal. So parent would be contacted. But remember, if the child does have a fever over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, then they have to go home. Yep, they have to.
One more. I just wanted to thank Mr. Bullock and the panel for taking the time to explain everything to us. Very welcome. Again, we try to be timely, accurate, and transparent. So thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in person. Thank you so much attending virtual. Again, this will be online. Please encourage people to fill out the registration form timely, if you will, so that we can get information. Oh, one more question.
If, say we're getting home and we think of something, like a question that we just don't know to ask right now, is that the email address we're going to reach out to?
Yes, please. Yes, please. So the email that's still up on the screen, communications@sidneycsd.org, absolutely email it. If Mr. Stena can't answer it, he's going to divert it to the right subgroup of teams. If we don't know the answer, we'll get back to you. If we don't know the answer, we'll get back to you. But yes, please use communications@sidneycsd.org. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.